So everyone's favorite nihilist has made a video talking about political correctness and language, and well, let's just hear his perspective.
You know, it really feels good that I don't have to explain.
I should also point out, before we even get started, who inspired this video. Now, this video is inspired by Matt Stone and Trey Parker of South Park fame. Specifically the show South Park, but we'll see.
In my absence from YouTube in this particular video, I don't need to go on about the good old days when I made YouTube videos and associated with certain people. But before...
Ooh, I wonder who that was directed to.
Before I go on and do some shit like that again, effectively boring all of you to death.
What? You're still doing it. You're still doing it. You want advice? You want to know how you get past this hurdle? You just don't do it. Just jump in. Go with the flow. Do your video. Do the topic you want to cover. You don't fucking have to explain anything to anyone.
Why don't I get to the actual point of this video? The following video is going to be about political correctness.
Ooh, because that's a thing that exists.
Now, all of you know that I evidently love South Park more than I would love my firstborn child.
That's fucking... If you weren't joking, I would call you a fucked up person for that, but since I know that was just you trying to be funny, I'm not gonna hold it against you.
I hate politically correct people, and I hate...
Ooh, I hate people who don't go around saying slurs. What?
American liberals for the most part.
American liberals, particularly classical liberals, are the ones who agree with you, fuck ass.
Now, I could be seizing the opportunity to mock the ever-loving shit out of them, because I genuinely do believe they are some of the dumbest cocksuckers in the entire political...
Oh yeah, because Matt Stone and Trey Parker are the biggest political geniuses of our time. Yes, I am willing to listen completely to every single thought that they have. And I'm not saying that Matt Stone and Trey Parker never do anything good or never say anything good. They've said a lot of good things. Their show is great. Team America World Police, except for the ending, was great. But they are not fucking political philosophers, again.
Scene, and in the...
You know, you need to maybe... Some of these people who you're saying are PC assholes, maybe listen to what they say. You know, maybe don't get your opinions off of a fucking cartoon show.
Modern intellectual discourse. But for the sake of driving my point across, I'm not going to do that. Trey Parker and Matt Stone already did it much better than yours truly would ever be able to do. So instead, I'm going to be nice, and I'm going to spoon-feed what I believe are the most obvious points possible.
If they're so obvious, why are you telling me?
The first problem with these politically correct...
You know, I just want to say, this is why people don't really like your videos that much. By the way, that is an amazing dirt face I have right now. You treat the audience like they're your fucking children who you have to talk down to as if they're dogs who just can't understand your brilliant mind. Fuck off.
Fox is this one idea that every single person who would use a term like...
We're back now.
Kike, nigger, faggot, or even using the word gay kind of freely, like that pole is gay, those drums are gay, that guitar is gay, your voice is gay.
Okay, so think about this for a quick damn second, right? Because there's so many people who just don't seem to understand this idea. What is the word gay associated with? Homosexuals. So basically what you're saying when you use the word gay to describe something as being bad or less than good, you don't get it there. How? It's an obvious fucking correlation.
Like, all of these people are just horrible human beings who actually add to actual social ailments.
They do, because they normalize these attitudes. I will link a sociology study that basically shows the effects of not taking disparagement humor seriously. And no one said, and I'm not saying ban it. You know, I don't even go that far. I don't believe in banning things. But I think that to sit there and act like calling everything gay or calling people faggot really means nothing except, oh, bad person, I think that's a bit fucking naive.
Simply by expressing in a rather free and non-filtered manner. I have a huge fucking problem with this for various reasons, but the first one I'd really want to get down to is the fact that this is the blatant neglect of language barriers. Now, in case any of you really are wondering about what I'm talking about, in case the title of that isn't self-explanatory, language barriers are what lead into two people not fully understanding each other. Essentially semantics. Whenever you have two different people, they're always going to have some disagreements. They're always going to see some things in different ways. And in order for them to have dialogue and not start swinging at each other at that moment itself, it's very, very, very important that these people talk to each other, understand what their real ideas are, understand what their real motives are, instead of just waving the red flag, going, you're a homophobe, because you...
Yeah, that is important. But here's the problem. When you are actively equating the word gay or faggot or bitch or cunt with something bad, what other interpretation is there in this particular culture? These nuts. We're not talking about people who live outside of a certain culture. We're talking about people who grew up in relatively similar areas, use similar language, but, you know, if a woman is being, you know, a bit over emotional, they get called a cunt. You know, or how about mangina? Like, what? Vaginas are bad now. But these are obvious associations that any human being could come to. It's self-evident in the usage itself. This shouldn't have to be explained. There is a difference between disagreeing on ideas and not getting what the other side is saying, and understanding what the other side is saying, but saying that what they do normalizes attitudes in other areas.
You use the word faggot. You're a racist because you use the word kike.
Why would you want to use the word kike?
And so on and so forth when it comes to political correctness. When you start calling people who may actually agree with you, when you start calling people horrible human beings just because they don't communicate the same way as you, it actually destroys your ability to attack actual social injustice. Because the truth of the matter is, the people organizing together is what leads into socially unjust policies being toppled over.
No fucking shit, Sherlock. But it's not just policies now, is it? Do you honestly think that everything and every inequality is related to policy making? That's naivete on a level that is incomprehensible. Inequality in itself can be sociological, institutional, legally sanctioned, state-sanctioned. There is a lot of ways people can be oppressed.
But if you're turning all of these people who would otherwise agree with you against you by calling them bad human beings, and by refusing...
I'm not calling them bad human beings, I'm calling them slightly naive.
...to understand them, you make them feel that they don't want to conform because they don't want to limit their behaviors, having less fun in life, and they also don't want to associate politically, socially, or in any way with the fucking imbecile. Case in point, If it really is one of your aspirations to drive some sort of social change, never, ever, under any circumstances whatsoever, be sectarian. Division is going to ruin your chance at actually inducing that change. If you want change, you need power. If you need power, you need people. And if you want people, people are going to have to agree with you, and not just agree with your ideas. Agree with your methods to the extent where they would actually feel compelled to rallying behind you. Now, if you're driving them away, saying that they're horrible human beings just for using certain phrases, and straw-manning them as homophobes, sexists, racists, or whatever the fuck else, they're going to be offended, and they're going to rally against you. That actually aids your enemy. If your side is divided, it's more likely that the shit that you don't want to happen is going to continue to happen. But that's a basic point. Let's go on to the actual words. Now, when you actually talk to one of these people, they may say that words do change culturally. When you question them, they might admit, oh yes, words change culturally. So this would imply that back when the word faggot would have been used to describe a bundle of sticks or a cigarette butt, it would have been okay to say it because culturally it wasn't a pejorative term against homosexuals. But in the present day...
No, you fucking idiot, because the way that it started becoming a pejorative for homosexuals was people started calling them faggots because they were insinuating that they needed to burn. You don't get this, do you?
The word fag is being used against homosexuals, then it's bad. So they're saying language does evolve, and we should abide by it. Now, that much seems reasonable at face value. Words do change. Words do have multiple meanings in the dictionary for a rather concrete reason. But I also see a lot of hypocrisy and a lack of understanding in this shit. You do realize that when words change, there often is an intermediate phase, where it goes from being something derogatory to something acceptable. You could be living in an intermediate phase, where something's actually transitioning from bad to good. And it doesn't...
I could be living in an intermediate phase, but the problem is I'm really not if I take a look at the world around me and the way that people still treat gays, the way that people still treat women, or black people, or minorities of any kind, whether they be gender minorities, sexual minorities, or race minorities.
It doesn't just happen like this. Fag now means nothing. Retard means nothing. Cunt means nothing. It's not like that. It means that people need to beat it into meaninglessness. People need to use it to describe everything. That's retarded. That's gay. He's a cunt. She's a cunt. That's a fucking kike. All of this shit. You need to beat it into meaninglessness so the original slur doesn't actually mean anything anymore. And that's the point where the word would change. It shows that the words are changing culturally, so you can't really knock somebody for taking a part in that.
Yeah, I can't. But you know the problem? Again, we're not in a transitionary phase in language. We're not. People still use fag to address gay people. People still use gay to mean something negative that you shouldn't be. Femininity is often associated with weakness, whether it be emotional weakness or physical weakness. That's the point in history that we're at, and there are people working to change it. But maybe, just maybe, you gotta fix other, more subtle things before you get straight into fucking pejoratives.
Another thing about it is, as I mentioned, it does lead into the meaning of those words changing. The words that you would normally use to refer to a disenfranchised group of people is now just being used for anything. It means that it doesn't mean anything anymore, so you don't have anything to refer to those people anymore. And that means that you're practically not even acknowledging the situation. When you stop using words like that to describe them, you're not really describing their ailment anymore. They're more or less like normal people, and it leaves a window for you to just treat them like normal people. And I know you're going to say I'm politically incorrect and I'm insensitive for saying that, but I'm actually saying that I would rather make it so I would treat these people just like anybody else. And by that I mean I will not be sensitive towards them. I won't be extra sensitive towards them. I'm sure...
So, okay. I get what this line of thinking is. To break it down into English, this is basically the I'm not racist, I'm just colorblind type of bullshit. Well, here's the problem, man. We live in a world of cultural division. Gay culture is separate from straight people. Black culture is separate from white culture, and etc., etc., etc. And for the most part, and I'm going to say this, and I understand the type of assholes who usually say this, they are wrong too, but in truth, the whole cultural melting pot concept kind of fucked itself in the ass. So, we're forced now with a situation where we have people who are, let's say, black, who you don't just go around and call niggers for obvious reasons, or gay people who you don't call faggots for obvious reasons. And we have to reconcile that pejorative with people just associating it with being bad. How do you do that? Give me a straight-up answer to that question. Because I don't think nullifying what other people want, what other people are, is going to fix it. I don't think me saying, oh, I'm not a homophobe, I'm just sex blind, is going to fix anything. I think it's just going to give the bigots a bigger platform and make me look like an asshole who's wishy-washy and not willing to take a position.
A lot of people are getting ready at their keyboards right now, starting to go on at me about how I'm being a dumbass, because using slurs like faggot actually makes homophobes more comfortable, and etc., etc. I don't need to drive the same example.
It does. It fucking does. It does. It does. It's been proven that it does. We don't need to show this to you. You can look it up yourself. It's been proven. It does. When things are so self-evidential, I don't think they require this much explanation.
Home over and over again. But before you're gonna go on saying that I don't understand this situation because of my lack of sensitivity, no. Just fucking no.
No, you don't understand the situation because you don't want to understand the situation.
And I understand what you're going to say here. These people are dim. And I do agree, and I do assert that you need to be a special kind of retard to genuinely hate gay people. And you need to be especially dim to hate people of other races.
And thank you. That's what we fucking need. We need people who will say that up front. But you know what else we need? We need people who won't normalize what they fucking do.
But what I will also say is that nobody is that fucking stupid. When a word is beaten into meaninglessness, it becomes, as that phrase suggests, fucking meaningless.
But the problem is the word's not been beaten into meaninglessness yet.
When you start using a word so freely that it doesn't have a negative connotation anymore, it also doesn't refer to anything anymore. It doesn't reflect on any group. It doesn't reflect on any group's idea. It doesn't have a meaning.
So basically, nullify everything, get rid of cultural and get rid of difference, and then you'll have a world where everyone is the same.
It doesn't have some sort of set meaning in stone, and it will always mean when you use it. It's just there. When you want the word to actually have a derogatory or a positive meaning, you actually reserve the use of that. That's the reason that Christians, despite worshiping God, don't use the word God so freely for fucking everything, even though they supposedly love this mythical being. It's the same kind of concept. If you really want the word faggot to mean something derogatory, you actually reserve it for when the situation is appropriate, when you want to act like a homophobic idiot. But given that the word has no meaning anymore...
The word does have meaning, you fucking moron! This is just political posturing. Not even political posturing. It's you trying to play sociology major. And you're fucking bad at it.
They do realize that most people are actually mocking them and making their use of the term a thing of the past. Obscure. Stupid. Shit. Whatever you want to call it.
Do you know the problem with your theory here? Right? And this is the major problem. Because from my understanding, you're saying, oh, you use it when you want to sound like a homophobic idiot. Which is correct. That's when you do it. But you also have to acknowledge how fucked up it is, otherwise you kind of just are a homophobe. But the major problem is you're saying on the one hand it makes people look stupid, yet you're defending it.
We're not making homophobes comfortable with that kind of thing. And in a situation where it happens, in a society where we start using slurs so freely, someone who's actually homophobic or racist or sexist is probably going to have to ask, are you actually like that? Whenever someone uses a slur like that. That's the effect of being politically incorrect. If you really want to help disenfranchised people, you're going to get rid of the words that people would use against them. This is the way. You can think of other ways and you can provide them to me, but as of yet, this is the only one that's actually effectively worked. So
this actually isn't true, but I'm not going to go into a debate over the history of language with you. Mainly because I'm not a professional fucking linguist. I know a little bit about it. Nor am I a sociologist, nor am I a historian. I do know a lot for a layman in those fields. However, I am not any of those fields. But I'm relatively certain, and call me crazy here, but I don't exactly think that's how it works.
Political correctness, by the admission of many politically correct people, often entails extra sensitivity for people who are at disadvantage.
What is extra sensitivity? Is extra sensitivity not going around and calling everyone a nigger? Is extra sensitivity not going around and calling everyone a faggot? Is extra sensitivity not being a general prick to everyone you come across? Is that political correctness? Because if that's political correctness, then fucking sign me up. I would be happy to live in a world where people weren't fucking dicks to each other. Sorry.
His positions. Now, this doesn't exactly sound so bad at face value either. You know, you're being nice to people who don't have it as good as you do. You know, just this whole idea of being a better human being and really just looking at things from the right perspective. But then you really dig deeper and you find out what the method is. This is political correctness after all, and we're going to have to understand one very, very important detail. If we actually want to make it so these things don't matter to the victim, if we really want to make them equal to ourselves, we don't acknowledge the problem. We don't actually treat their ailment or their disadvantageous position like a problem. We don't acknowledge it, and we actually give them an opportunity to be our equals.
Excuse me. Let's get face to face for a second, right? I understand you have this little worldview, opinion, whatever you wanted to share with everyone. But this is batshit. The idea that you can fix a sociological issue by avoiding it. That's the opposite of solving a problem. Well, middle ground between solving a problem and causing a problem. In a way, you can make an argument that it helps the problem continue. What you do when there is a sociological issue is you fucking handle it. You act like it's a problem, and you say, I'm mad as fuck, and I'm not going to take it anymore. That's what you do. That's what everyone has to do. You know, the idea that you could solve problems by ignoring them? That's just fucking ignorance. That's just you wanting to be lazy. Either admit you're a lazy fuck, or just... It's a waste of my fucking time, isn't it? It's a waste of my fucking time.
Some victims who don't want to be reminded of it. They want to feel equal, even though they happen to be disabled.
There's the big problem with this, Saket. There is a difference between feeling equal and being equal. You know, if I feel equal to fucking Bill Gates, if I felt equal to Bill Gates, would I be as powerful as Bill Gates? Would I have the same privileges as Bill Gates? No. Because either way, I'm not Bill fucking Gates.
Even if they happen to have some sort of mental disorder, whatever it happens to be, they want to feel like normal people. And just in the way that they don't want to be persecuted for their problem, they don't want to have special treatment either. They want to feel like it doesn't matter. I don't personally want to be reminded of my Asperger's syndrome all the time. I happen to be on the autism spectrum, but I don't actually let it affect how I run my life.
But the problem is that it does affect how you run your life. You want me to be straight up with you? I'm just gonna come out and say it, man. The way you live your life, or I live my life, or anyone else lives their life, we all have things that we have to go through, and there are systems in place which disadvantage some and advantage others. For me, I'm a white dude who's a male, but I have a few mental disorders, so I have to deal with stigma about bipolar and things like that. I am also incredibly fat, so I have to deal with a bunch of people constantly bringing that up, and to be honest, it's no skin off my balls. But the thing is, I live differently than someone who's, say, able-bodied and completely mentally healthy. Well, not completely mentally healthy. We all have quirks, but, you know, generally mentally healthy. I live differently to someone like that. It does affect the way I live my life. I grow accustomed to it. I deal with it. But to deny it as a part of who I am as a human being, to outright deny that it plays a part, or to avoid the problem and not try to confront it, it's just sheer ignorance. That doesn't make sense. It's like having a gun pointed at your head and not trying to get the person pointing the gun at your head away from you.
Don't let it make me bitter towards the world.
You are already bitter towards the world.
I don't start flipping people off for making autism jokes because
you have.
Because I want to make it so I'm not defined by my issues. There is more to someone's character than what they're afflicted with. And political correctness makes it so those things are at the forefront, and the true beauty behind a person really isn't. I don't care.
That's the problem, though. That's the complete opposite. The politically correct side, they're the side that's trying to not let you stigmatize gay people, or put them in a box, or stigmatize mentally unhealthy people, or stigmatize other people of other disabilities and disadvantages. That's what their goal is, for you to treat people like people. to be kind and good-hearted to everyone who you meet, regardless of what they've had to deal with. And it's saying, no, your issues do play a part in your life, which is self-evident, and you do have to deal with them, which is self-evident, but I'm not going to define you by this. That's what they're saying, for the most part, anyway. But, I don't know.
Care about their problems. And I'm not saying that in an insensitive way. I'm saying I don't care about their problems because I care about them.
But their problems are part of them, Saket. You know, if I am friends with someone who has extreme anxiety issues, you know, let's say they have social anxiety, I do have to take that into consideration a little bit. I have to ask them, hey, do you... Yeah, I can't just drag them out in public like I would with... No, let's change it a little. Let's say I have one friend who's a melancholic and one, this isn't a disorder or dysfunction of any kind, but, one friend who's a melancholic personality, one who is a sanguine. If melancholic people don't traditionally enjoy that much social interaction, so I do have to take that into account. It's not all of them, but it is a part of them.
You're the one making a big deal out of this shit, and you...
I think you don't get it, right? Here's the point where you're at. You think that differences separate people. But they do. But here's the thing. When you have understandings of those differences, when you understand what the life of a gay person is like, or what transgender people have to deal with, or what the mentally unhealthy have to deal with, that's when you can appreciate them beyond that. You could say, yeah, this is a part of you, but you are more than just that. If you're going to truly appreciate a person, you have to understand them in all aspects. You can't just say, oh, they're another person. It's naive.
You're the one who probably makes them feel bad, even though they're never going to openly flip you off, because most people just try not to be rude. You're fucking assholes.
Ooh. Says the guy who basically wants to make everything mean nothing.